I'm Alessandra, and I want to talk about the identity, how you build your own identity if you have multiple origins. And my main topic is how you as a parent can help your children to develop their own identity if they have multiple origins or ethnicities or countries or whatever. And that exactly is the point. But of course, if you are an adult by now and you have multiple origins and you did not have the chance to think about these influences that were part of becoming yourself, you can listen to that, of course, too. I had to develop all those thoughts on myself because I grew up being of multiple origins, and as often when the parents have a very clear origin, they don't think about it. So as a child, you are confronted with a problem, or at least something you have to think about, that your parents did not have to think about. And that is exactly what I had been dealing with, and where I put many thoughts in it, mainly because then my daughter, when she was born in one country, having all those multiple origins that I of course have. And then we moved to another country, and then the topic became important to me because I wanted her to grow up in complete serenity and just feeling secure within herself, whatever racist or stupid nationalist would confront her with her not being from there. So after all the topics that I have discussed, which let's say seem normal and logical, be it country, be it populace, be it language, of course, which has been 2 chapters, 2 episodes. Now I have a few more that might not seem as logical. And again, I thought about it. That's why this whole series is, my whole channel is called Brain Bits, because I think about it and I put my brain bits just out there, and you make of it whatever is right for you. I won't tell anybody what has to happen, what does not have to happen. Everybody should build their own identity as they like, but I like to share my thoughts just as a help, a support that maybe makes it easier for you to develop your own opinion first and then identity. So the topic of today is, what kind of government have you grown up under? I know it sounds strange, right? But just follow me. So imagine growing up in a modern democracy, which is more or less liberal, where you have the freedom to express your opinion, you have the freedom of religion, you have the freedom of press, you have the freedom of, and we all know that all those freedoms are more or less, even if they are part of a constitution of a country, it doesn't mean that it's always 100% given, but at least they try. So imagine being a citizen of a country like that. You grow up in a completely different mindset than growing up in a country that is somehow oppressing their citizens. So where you don't have the freedom and the right to express your opinion publicly, where you don't have the right to gather publicly with other people, where you don't have the right to protest, you don't have the right to express your and live your religion, be it because there is one, let's say, national religion that you have to follow, be it because this government says that people should not have any religion, at least not publicly. Of course, I think privately you can believe whatever you want, but as soon as you have some symbols for your religion, it might become a problem. It depends on the government that this country has. And imagine how this influences your identity. Of course, at the end, you will not, if somebody asks you, the favorite question, where are you from? Or who are you? You will not say, I was a citizen, or I am a citizen of a democracy, or I am a citizen of a country where people were oppressed. Of course, you're not saying it, but it still is part of your identity because it has formed you, the way you behave. Can you express your feelings? Can you express your opinions? Can you go wherever you want? Can you live your religion? Or do you have to take care and be very cautious about who might be listening and who could see me? Or before you leave the house, did I put on everything that I'm supposed to wear when I go outside to the public, which is a very important topic in those days. Look at Iran, look at Afghanistan. What does it do to women that they have to cover their hair, their complete body, even the hands and the eyes? It is oppressing so much your personality. I'm not going into the discussion of the hijab itself. So if a woman decides that she wants to wear it, I personally think that everybody should do whatever they want as long as they don't break another person's freedom or boundaries. So if you want to wear the scarf or the hijab, go ahead. I'm not talking about that. But being forced by a government and by soldiers and some moral police, in my opinion, is completely wrong. But a part of that discussion, what does it make of a woman if she is forced to wear something to cover herself completely up? So it is completely denying the individuality of a woman. She is not longer her. She is just a covered black something human. Of course, in that case, female, because everybody who is then covered is female. But she is not longer herself in the public. She is objectified, in my personal opinion. But okay. Let's come back to what I want to talk about. It is, what does it do to your personality? And on top of that, because I think you can imagine that a person living in a free state is developing their identity in a different way than living in a country where you are oppressed and you have none of those rights. But let's think one step further. Once those people move, sometimes they have to just flee a country because sometimes they don't have the right to leave the country. They leave the country and they go into another country which is more liberal. What happens to them? And we see different ways of reaction to that situation. So we see the ones that at a certain point it's like an explosion. They start enjoying this freedom that they never had, but they also might be irritated by the freedom, mainly by the freedom that they see that other people have that they weren't used to. Or they feel just insecure because all those freedoms, they do something, they produce a certain vibe, let's say. So living in a state of rigid laws where everything is clear and you have to do this and you have to do that and you're not allowed to do this and not allowed to do that, those rigid structures unfortunately also give security. And what happens to a person which is in a foreign country where all those structures are not longer existing. And maybe they feel rejected by the people of this country. Maybe they don't know the language. Maybe they have no outlook in life because or their exams and all the titles they have gained in their country are not valid in the new one. And it's a problem to find a work or a position where you can earn some money and your salary. So you feel insecure, and you feel even more insecure because those structures are no longer there. And then maybe you develop negative feelings against those people who are enjoying all these freedoms. But enjoying freedom means also to be able to participate, means by interacting, communicating, means also by having the money to go out and buy yourself a coffee, or even worse, to have an apartment, to have a roof over your head. So all these freedoms can also cause insecurity and negative feelings. So all these things have an influence on our brains and in our souls, and we have to think about those when we grow up or we grow up our children. How much can this influence? We know that a parent who is traumatized passes on this PTSD or trauma to the children and the grandchildren. So this generational inheritance of traumata, we know that, for instance, Jewish people living in Europe during the Nazi regime and being incarcerated, is that even the right word? It's worse than that. They survived, if they survived this period and this atrocious time, they are traumatized. And they, even if they don't talk about it, or maybe just because they didn't talk about it, the children are traumatized. So they feel that there is something horrendous that has happened, and sometimes they are told and sometimes they aren't told, but they become traumatized too, and they pass it on again to their children. And we have to be aware of that. Also, these traumata that are from 1 or 2 generations before, or even more, they influence how our identity is built. And we have to be aware of that. And then imagine if 2 people fall in love with each other, the one coming from a regime where people were suppressed, oppressed, and the other one coming from a liberal country. And they come together with all their stories and backgrounds and trauma, and they have to deal with each other. And then they have children. What does it do to the children? Are the 2 countries of origin of their parents equal to them? It depends, of course, on how the parents talk about the countries. If you were oppressed in a country and you had the chance to get out of it, will you talk positively about this country? Will you cherish the traditions? Maybe you can cherish the traditions that you were living in that country with your family, but you will have also a negative perception of at least the government and what it did to the citizens. So I think the 2 parents have to really thoroughly try to understand themselves first and try to elaborate what they want to tell their children. Of course, I think they should tell what happened to their lives, because the problem with children is they feel, they sense if there is something bad that happened. They feel it. But if this topic is not talked about, if it's a taboo, then it becomes atrocious in their imagination, and it's not a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing. And in most cases, or many cases, they feel responsible for it. So it's always better to talk about what happened, of course, according to the age of the children, and put it in understandable words, and also try to explain it in a way that doesn't frighten the kid. But you just have to be aware on how you talk about it. Because children will soak everything in which you say and which you don't say. But you have just to be aware of the results of what you say and what you don't say. And also the struggles of a couple between them. Are there struggles due to that different history, different background? And then, as usual, it's always the best to communicate and try to find a common platform, and then try to communicate to the children. So I hope you liked today's topic. It was a bit difficult. I think you might have felt it. I tried not to say anything harming or offending anybody. I never want to offend anybody. But yeah, I hope you liked it. I hope I inspired you to develop your own thoughts. If you did, please leave me a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And as always, be kind.